Coming up on this week's show.
Scotland's most beautiful roads.
It is some of the most amazing landscapes and seascapes that you'll see. It's around the world in 500 miles.
Where to spend your Christmas holidays. And how about a cup of fish entrails?
Very strong. It's really chewy. Really very, very strong.
The city of Inverness on Scotland's northeast coast is the unofficial capital of the Highlands. It's been a popular tourist destination since the arrival of the railways in the mid-19th century. And despite its rather changeable weather, the city remains the gateway to exploring the country's mountainous north.
The usual tourist trail begins here in Inverness, and visitors tick off the big attractions in the region, heading to Loch Ness, Glencoe, and even as far as the Isle of Skye. But now there's a different way to explore the Highlands.
The North Coast 500, or NC 500 for short, is a driving route promoted as Scotland's answer to Route 66. The 516-mile route begins in Inverness and traces a loop around the north coast through some of the wildest country in the UK. From dramatic mountains to lochs, high passes and white sand beaches.
It is some of the most amazing landscapes and seascapes that you'll see. And in fact, some have said that it's around the world in 500 miles.
So you're the man who can...
Tom Campbell was the creator of the NC 500. He envisaged it as a means of bringing visitors out into parts of the Highlands previously undiscovered by tourists, and to bring economic benefits to struggling communities.
One of the real drivers of this was to try and make the Highlands and the North Highlands more sustainable, and so create opportunities for investment. And businesses were closing and leaving, and now they're staying and expanding.
And it has been a success. Since the NC 500 launch in 2015, locations along the route have reported a 26% increase in visitor numbers, as keen drivers arrive from across the UK, Europe and the world. While I don't have the recommended 5 to 7 days required to see the entire North Coast 500, I can't resist hitting the road and seeing part of it for myself. Outside Inverness, the landscape quickly grows more rugged, with craggy mountains on the horizon and valleys covered in heather and gorse.
There are some great stretches of road here, and increasingly drivers are taking to these twists and turns with rather more sophisticated wheels than I have at the moment. Hello.
Hi.
You must be Rob, and that must be your gorgeous car up there.
Yes, indeed it is.
When the NC 500 launched, local farmer Rob MACK spotted an opportunity and now hires out his prized sports car to tourists who want to hit the Highlands in a high-performance soft top.
So how did you go from farming to renting out sports cars? I mean, this seems a big transition.
I'm probably a bit of a petrol head, and I've always enjoyed driving, and I always wanted to buy a small two-seater sports car. So I decided to buy a Porsche Boxster, which is slightly more modern and maybe more of a driver's car, and hire it out when I'm not using it. So that's really how it came about. Driving a convertible, you can see the scenery much better, and the sights and sounds and smells of the countryside. It's just a really unique driving experience. And
keys! So exciting! Very nice. See you later. I'm going 60, which is the speed limit along here. But you can tell this baby's got a lot more in the tank.
The route takes in sections of standard highway as well as more secluded roads. And there are plenty of opportunities for diversions.
And you don't just have to stick to the main route. You can take a 10-minute detour like I have up to a beautiful viewpoint. And the best thing is, there's no one here.
Small businesses like Rob Mack's sports car hire have sprung up along the route. But there's also been an uptick for long-established ventures, such as the Shieldag Lodge Hotel in the western coastal village of Gairloch.
Since the NC 500, we've gone on to full all the time. From the beginning of April, we've been full right through till September.
For locals like Lisa, this has meant a whole new range of people discovering their small part of the Highlands.
They don't realise what a gem that we've got up here, and then when they're driving the route and they see the wee hidden pockets and the views and everything, they're just absolutely delighted, and a lot of them want to stay. If we didn't have the tourism, I mean, people wouldn't stay. People would leave, young families go away, people wouldn't retire up here, and it would just become a very quiet and, I suppose, lonely old place, and we need the tourism.
Under 2 hours drive away is one of the most difficult sections of the NC 500, the Bilach Nabar Pass, or Pass of the Cattle, an historic drover's road that's now a single paved track that winds up and over the Applecrossinn Mountains. It's notorious for its steep gradients and sharp hairpin bends. And I've chosen a particularly hairy time to attempt it.
It's just very atmospheric looking out, it's very misty. And I know there's a big mountain right there, but I can barely see it.
In recent years, this road has become increasingly busy, with buses and motorhomes often clogging the narrow passes.
This is one of the more dangerous stretches of the NC 500. It's very twisty and turny, woo! And there's every chance you can meet an oncoming camper van coming the other way because it's single lane. But to add to the excitement, we've got a good bit of Scottish weather and rain hitting us right now, so it's a little bit tricky to see out the windscreen.
This increased traffic has caused serious concerns for residents of Applecross, the small seaside village at the end of the pass.
Applecross is known as the sanctuary, or was known as the sanctuary. I think there's a few people calling it other words now.
This village now receives a barrage of visitors, putting pressure on its limited infrastructure.
The conditions of the roads have deteriorated tremendously. The camping facilities, the accommodation facilities, the restaurant facilities are all very much under an awful lot of pressure. I could employ 10 more people basically here at the inn with the new business that's come along.
But is that not a good thing? Because, as you say, you know, if business is good, then that's a good thing.
Well, no, I did like my little pub as it was, you know, we're in a little bit of a feeding factory now, you know, sort of just constantly need to man the door. The local boys would like to get a corner of the bar occasionally to have a beer.
But despite some discomfort among Applecross locals at the swollen visitor numbers, there is a recognition that the changes brought by the NC 500 route are likely to stay.
You can have 300 people in the hotel, and it's beautiful, and that always will be, and it doesn't matter how many people come here. Yeah.
Still to come on The Travel Show.
From Amsterdam to Vietnam, our travel guru fields your questions. And Carmen's trip takes on a fishy flavour during her mission to tackle some of Japan's most daunting dishes.
Very crunchy and very, very, very fishy. Bye.
The Travel Show, your essential guide wherever you're heading.
Welcome to the slice of the show that tackles your questions about getting the best out of travel. Coming up, advice on a Christmas escape and why banks in Argentina are coming back into fashion. First though, at the end of a summer which has seen long passport queues across Europe, I can bring you details of what awaits visitors from outside the EU who don't currently need visas. The Electronic Travel Information and Authorization System, or ETIAS for short, will require prospective visitors to fill in an online form similar to the US ESTA scheme and pay €5 to apply. There's no date yet for implementation, but the EU has promised there'll be an initial 6-month spell when the ETIAS will be optional. Of course, we'll keep you posted here on The Travel Show. Here's a question emailed to thetravelshow@bbc.co.uk.
My family and I like travelling on Christmas Day. So far we've done New York, Cape Town and Seville. I think a city break would suit our needs best, preferably with a wow factor and plenty to see for my sons. We generally walk a lot, so where next?
For Christmas 2017, I have one recommendation: Luxor in Egypt. As luck would have it, the only scheduled flight of the week takes off on December the 25th. You leave the midwinter gloom of Northern Europe behind and touch down in a warm, welcoming city halfway between London and the equator. Walking is the ideal way to explore the ruins of Karnak on the edge of Luxor, then take a ferry across the Nile to the Valley of the Kings. You can easily combine Luxor with the Egyptian capital Cairo, thanks to the overnight train or frequent planes between them. Just check the latest travel advice before you go. Alison John is off to Vietnam in November, but
I'm a little concerned about being ripped off. I'm no good at bargaining, so how can I tell I'm paying a fair price?
First, top marks for choosing to travel to Vietnam in November, when the humid summer is over, leaving cool days in the north and warm sunshine in the south. The vast majority of Vietnamese traders are honest and friendly, and it's an excellent place to sharpen your bargaining skills. Ask other tourists, particularly backpackers who've been in Vietnam for a while, for guidance on appropriate price levels. And while you're negotiating, keep smiling. It's important that both parties make it a fun, engaging experience. And if you're happy with the agreed price, pay up with a smile and don't give the purchase a second thought. Finally, George Cook wants to know,
what's the best way of taking money to Argentina?
Argentina is a wonderful country to visit, from Patagonia to Buenos Aires and the spectacular Iguazu Falls. Last time I was in the country, the best way to get money for your trip was on the black market. But now that constraints on the official rate have eased, there's no longer any advantage changing money on the streets. So these days, I recommend taking a credit card or two and some US dollars, though you shouldn't need too many because Argentina remains outstanding value. Whether you're contemplating a trip to the nation next door or the ends of the earth, I'm here to help. So email your question to thetravelshow@bbc.com and I'll do my very best to find you an answer. From me, Simon Calder, the Global Guru, bye for now and see you next time.
Japan's food can be just jaw-dropping, and most people new to the country make a beeline for the yakitori joints or sushiyas that you'll find everywhere.
I've lived here in Tokyo for over 3 years now, and I love Japanese food, but there's still some I find quite intimidating.
So with a little help from my translator Yoko, I'm taking my taste buds on a trip through this country to try and understand what I'm missing out on.
Wow, look at this octopus.
This is Tsukiji in Tokyo. It's the world's biggest fish market. The early morning tuna auctions are the biggest attraction. But just the sheer range of creatures here makes for fascinating browsing.
That's a lot of blood and guts. Oh.
It won't be around forever though. It's likely to be relocated next year to a site outside central Tokyo.
This is all so fresh. I think I need something with a kick.
The outer market is where you can try some of the more exotic flavors.
So this is shirakara. There's lots of different types of shirakara, but this is Ika shirakara, which is squid. Now, I've been told that this one, you can see there's some dark bits in it, which is basically the whole squid. There's the skin, there's everything.
Shirakara is fish fermented with its own entrails in a salty liquid, usually made from wheat, miso, and soy.
It's quite heavy, feels heavy.
It's usually served as an appetizer in small portions alongside alcohol.
I'm a bit scared. Ganbatte! Ganbatte! Very strong. It's really chewy. Really very, very strong. I don't want to offend her, but okay. I need a drink.
Now, I don't mind squid. It's just the fermentation and the entrails I have a problem with. So, to convince me I'm wrong, Yoko takes me to a class run by one of Japan's most famous fermenters.
So why do Japanese people like fermented foods so much?
日本ってやっぱり四季があって、で夏ももちろん暑いですし、であとは湿度が高い。乾燥させるのが本当に一番保存するには一番いいんですけど、乾燥させられないってなった時にはこのバクテリアの力を借りる。保存することが一番自分のね命に関わることですから、大切なことですからね。それがだから、保存するために微生物とずっと付き合ってきたっていうのがまず始まりだと思いますね。
So I've got hold of the head and the tentacles very firmly, and I'm meant to pull, and the intestines are meant to come out. Oh my goodness, this is so slimy. Okay, slowly, slowly. Oh! Is this right? Ugh, look at this. Stuff oozing out. Okay.
He said this will be salted.
This?
Yes.
Oh, we ate this bit? So this is soya bean, wheat, what else? Salt and water. All right.
Put some hishio into this bowl because with just this guts and salt, it will smell.
It will
very
smell.
bad.
But suddenly I stumble across something that might just make the difference.
Maybe it goes better with beer.
If it's
fishy.
Sake.
Sake.
So it seems shirakara makes most sense when eaten with sake. I wonder if that might just make the difference. This shirakara specialist with a vast menu is just around the corner from Tokyo's famous electric town, Akihabara. They've got 60 different types here, from traditional squid through to cherry shrimp, octopus and shark bone. And I've arranged to meet Satoko here. She's a sake sommelier who runs tasting tours around the city.
Please say you're here to help me.
All right. Let's try the shark bones.
Okay,
Yeah.
shark bones. Oh my
Shark bone
goodness.
with, maybe the texture should be interesting, I think.
Okay, here goes. Well, the colour looks pretty, I'll give it that. Okay, here we go. Very crunchy and very, very, very fishy. That's good.
Yeah. So in general, I think the dry sake should go well with any kinds of shiokara. If shiokara has a strong taste or strong umami, maybe it should go well with the sake with complex taste.
Definitely compliments.
Right, right.
That's where I was going wrong. I didn't have a sake
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah.
Kanpai.
Kanpai.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's show. But coming up next week...
We pay a flying visit to the Greek islands and visit the first of them to run a tourist industry on the wind and sun alone.
The tourism industry here on Telos is pretty sustainable and low-key anyway, but they are setting a really good example.
So do join us then if you can. And in the meantime, don't forget you can catch up with us while we're out on the road in real time by signing up to our social media feeds. Details are on the screen now. But for now, from me, CHRISTA, LARWOOD, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in the Scottish Highlands, it's goodbye.